I have the privilege of being working with this gentleman for quite a while on the project, and he'll tell you about the project, but I think this man needs no introduction. He's on Blue Bloods currently. He has originated roles in 3 or more shows on Broadway, 2 Sondheim shows. So, folks, the original Sweeney Todd, Lynn Cariou.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Mark and I and Barry Kleinborg have put together an evening of Shakespeare and song. It seems appropriate because it'll be at the Lion Theater on 42nd Street from the end of January until the first week of March. And so it'll be like one of the first things to be done in this city, I think, on the anniversary of Shakespeare's death, which is a kind of a happy coincidence. But I would like to do some portion of it. I'd like to do our opening and our closing. And we're going to do it in a theater, obviously, and so imagine, if you will, that Mark sits down at the piano, the house goes to half, and he starts to play. And the lights come up, and I walk out. If music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it, that surfeiting the appetite may sicken and so die. Ah, that strain again, it had a dying fall. Oh, it came o'er my ear like the sweet sound that breathes upon a bank of violets, stealing and giving odor. Enough! No more! It's not so sweet now as it was before. Secret of love, how quick and fresh art thou, that notwithstanding thy capacity receiveth as the sea. Oh, when mine eyes did see Olivia first, methought she purged the air of pestilence. That instant was I turned into a hart, and my desires like fell and cruel hounds ere since pursue me. Love, I hear, makes you sigh a lot. Also love, I hear, leaves you weak. Love, I hear, makes you blush and turns you ashen. You try to speak with passion and squeak. I hear, love, they say, makes you pine away. But you pine away with an idiotic grin. I pine, I blush, I squeak, I squawk. Today I woke too weak to walk. What's love I hear, I feel, I fear I'm in. Falling in love with love is falling for make-believe. Falling in love with love is playing the fool. Caring too much is such a juvenile fancy. Learning to trust is just for children in school. I fell in love with love one night when the moon was full. I was unwise with eyes unable to see. I fell in love with love everlasting. But love, I hear, makes you goo-ga-goo. Also love, I hear, know what to do. I'm dazed, I'm pale, I'm sick, I'm sore. I've never felt so well before. What's love? I hear, I feel, I fear, I know I am, I'm sure I mean, I hope, I trust, I pray I must be in. Forgive me if I shout, forgive me if I crow. I've only just found out. And well, I thought you ought to know.
Yeah.
And welcome to Broadway and the Bard. I made my Broadway debut in 1969 at the Amphitheater as Shakespeare's Henry V. It was a limited run transfer from the Stratford, Connecticut Shakespeare Festival. And 6 months later, in the spring of 1970, I made my musical comedy debut in the musical Applause at the Palace Theater. And ever since then, I've had this idea of putting together an evening of Shakespeare in song, taking some of the great soliloquies from roles that I've played and matching them with Broadway's tunes that were either supported the text or were the antithesis. Like our first offering, the opening speech of Orsino in Twelfth Night. And the songs were Love I Hear, from Stephen Sondheim's A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and Falling in Love with Love from Rodgers and Hart's The Boys from Syracuse, which of course was based on The Comedy of Errors by William Shakespeare. Now, our next offering is really what inspired this entire evening. Imagine, if you will, that England is at war with France. The English army is led by King Henry himself. They find themselves in Harfleur in mid-battle. Once more under the breach, dear friends, once more, or close the wall up with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of a tiger, stiffen the sinews, conjure up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favored rage. On, you noblest English! Dishonor not your mothers. Now attest that those whom you call fathers did beget you. For there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble lustre in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge cry, God for Harry, England, and St. George! What is it that we're living for? Applause, applause. Nothing I know brings on the glow like sweet applause. You're thinking you're through, that nobody cares. Then suddenly you hear it starting, and how you're in charge again, and it's a ball. Trumpets all sing, life seems to swing, and you're the king of it all, because you've had a taste of the sound that says love. Applause, applause, applause. When I was 8, I was in a school play. I'll never forget it. I had one line to say. My big moment came. I said, "What ho, the prince?" My sister applauded. I've been hooked ever since. It's better than pot. It's better than booze. A shot of applause will drown out the blues. You work till you're dead.
I know
It ain't for the bread. Going out of my head. Right sweet applause. Your bank account's bare, your cat has the flu, you're losing your hair. Then you hear it. That happy sound rolls over you, and just like that, everything's bright. This is the night. Love hits you right where you're at, 'cause you've had a taste of the sound that says love. Applause, 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 Recognize that waltz? In 1973, I created the role of Frederick Egerman in Stephen Sondheim's NYC, while I was holding the position of co-artistic director at the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. The artistic director was Michael Langham, and we had made a pact that after I had run for a year in my musical, we hoped, it happened. I would return to the Guthrie to play Shakespeare's Macbeth. I was salivating, but it was not to be. Michael changed his mind, and at the last minute switched the play from Macbeth to King Lear. I was devastated. But Sir Mike, as I like to call him, sat me down and said, "No Scottish play for you. You played Lear. It's time you started playing those character parts." I was 35. It changed my life. King Lear has 3 daughters, Goneril, Regan, and his pride and joy, Cordelia. He's in his 80s, and he has decided to divide his kingdom amongst them. The most juicy parts going to the one who tells him how much she loves him the most. Goneril and Regan comply. Cordelia refuses. He banishes her and divides the kingdom in half, but with one proviso, that he and 100 of his knights would come and visit at Regan's house for 6 months, at Goneril's house for 6 months, and so on, and so forth. This, of course, is intolerable to them, and they demand that he reduce the number of his followers. In fact, eliminate them altogether.
Hear me, my lord. What need you 5 and 20? 10 or 5? What need 1?
Oh, reason not the need. Our basest beggars are in the poorest things superfluous. Allow not nature more than nature needs. Man's life is cheap as beasts. Thou art a lady, if only to go warm or gorgeous. Why, nature needs not what thou gorgeous wearest, which scarcely keeps thee warm, but for true need. You heavens, give me that patience I need. You see me here, you gods, a poor old man, as full of grief as age, wretched in both. If it be you that turns these daughters' hearts against their father, Fool me not so much to bear it tamely. Touch me with noble anger, and let not women's weapons water drop stain my man's cheeks. No, you are natural hags. I will have such revenges on you both that all the world shall. I will do such things. What they are yet, I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth. You think I'll weep? No, I'll not weep. I have full cause of weeping, but this heart shall break into 100,000 flaws, or ere I'll weep. A man's got a heart, hasn't he? Joking apart, hasn't he? And though I'd be the first one to say that I'm hardly a saint, and finding it hard to be really as black as they paint, I'm reviewing the situation. I must quickly look up everyone I know, title people with a station, who will help me make a real impressive show. I will own a suite at Claridge's and run a fleet of carriages and wave at all the duchesses with friendliness as much as is befitting of my new estate. Good morrow to you, magistrate. I think I'd better think it out again. What happens when you're 70? I'm past that time, 70. When you're old and it's cold and who cares if you live or you die? Your one consolation's the money you might have put by. I'll go my way by myself. This is the end of romance. I'll go my way by myself. Love is only a dance. I'll try to apply myself and teach my heart how to sing. I'll go my way by myself, like a bird on the wing. I'll face the unknown. I'll build a world of my own. No one knows better than I myself. I'm by myself alone. Here's how the comedy ends. I'll have to deny myself love and laughter and friends. Gray clouds in the skies above have put a blur on my fun. I'll try to fly high above for my place in the sun. I'll face the unknown. I'll build a world of my own. No one knows better than I myself. I'm by myself alone. All the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. His acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. And then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made of his mistress' eyebrow. Then the soldier, full of brave oaths and jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble of reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in full round belly, with good cape on line, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The sixth age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful hose, well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice, turning again towards childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all that ends this strange event for history is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. When I was a young man courting the girls, I played me a waiting game. If a maid refused me with tossing curls, I let the old world take a couple of whirls, while I plied her with tears in lieu of pearls. And as time came around, she came my way. As time came around, she came. Oh, it's a long, long while from May to December, but the days grow short when we reach September. When the autumn weather turns the leaves to flame, one hasn't got time for the waiting game. Oh, the days dwindle down to a precious few. September, and these few precious days I'll spend with you. These precious days I'll spend with you. Ye elves of hills, brooks, standing lakes and groves, and ye that on the sand with printless foot do chase the ebbing Neptune, and do fly him when he comes back, by whose words, weak masses though you be, I have bedimmed the noontide sun, called forth the mutinous winds, and by the spurs plucked up the pine and cedar. Graves at my command have waked their sleepers, oped, and led them forth by my so potent art. But this rough magic I here abjure. And when I have required some heavenly music, as even now I do, I'll break my staff, bury it certain fathoms in the earth, and deeper than did ever plummet sound, I'll drown my book. Our revels now have ended. These are actors, as I have foretold you, who are all spirits and have melted into air, into thin air. And like the baseless fabric of this vision, the cloud-capped towers, the gorgeous palaces, the solemn temples, the great globe itself, yea, all which it inherits shall dissolve, and like this insubstantial pageant faded, leave not a rack behind. We are such stuff as dreams are made on, and our little life is rounded with a sleep. Oh, the wine dwindles down to a precious brew. September, November, and these few vintage years I'll spend with you. These vintage years I'll spend with.
The girls today in society go for classical poetry, so to win their hearts one must quote with ease Aeschylus and Euripides.
But the poet of them all, that'll stardom simply raving, is the poet people call the Bard of Stratford-on-Avon.
Brush up your Shakespeare, start quoting him now. Brush up your Shakespeare, and the women you will wow. Just declaim a few lines from Othello, and they'll think you're a hell of a fella. If your blonde won't respond when you flatter her, tell her what Tony told Cleopatra. If she fights when her clothes you are mussing, what are clothes much ado about nothing? Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow.
With the wife of the British ambassador, try a crack out of Troilus and Cressida. If she says she won't buy it or take it,
Make her take it once more as you like it.
if she says your behavior is heinous, kick her right in her chorial anus.
Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow.
If your girl is a Washington Heights stream, treat the kid to a Midsummer Night's Dream. If she then wants an all by herself night, let her rest every 11th or 12th night. If because of your heat she gets huffy, simply play on and lay on that Duffy. Brush up your Shakespeare, and they'll all kowtow.
In faith,
They'll all kowtow.
forsooth,
They'll all kowtow. If you can't be a ham and do Hamlet, they will not give a damn or a damlet.
Just recite the occasional sonnet, and your lap will have honey upon it. If your baby is pleading for pleasure, better sample your measure for measure. Brush up your Shakespeare.